We have two big winter storms that are set to bring heavy snow, ice, heavy rain, and significant rounds of severe weather to the United States. In this forecast, we're going to be walking you through step by step, every step of the way through the forecast so you understand what weather you can expect out your door over the next 7 to 10 days. If you are new to the channel, subscribe to the channel down below. Follow along through my daily accurate weather breakdowns on this channel. If you do enjoy and you find this video informative, give the video a like, thumbs up down below, and also go above and beyond and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I definitely appreciate it. Let's look in the short term and let's look at our temperatures because it has been a very cold start to our Tuesday, February 11th. Out here across the west, especially into northeast Montana. I mean, look at these temperatures this morning, 25, 35 degrees below zero, and that is just our air temperature. Our wind chills were pushing 50 below zero in northeastern Montana. Some life-threatening wind chills here, and that could cause frostbite in less than 10 minutes, folks. So that was some dangerously cold air. Now, as we go into the afternoon, notice how we warm up markedly across portions there of Montana. At least we're above zero with our air temperatures, but our wind chills there will remain below zero, around 10 to even 20 degrees below zero. Down here across Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, and even our friends over in West Texas will have highs in the 60s and 70s this afternoon. In the central U.S., a cold start to our day across the Dakotas, Minnesota, and northern Wisconsin with temperatures in the teens to 20s below zero, and our wind chills here as well pushing 30 to 40 degrees below zero, especially with the coldest areas into North Dakota, northern South Dakota, and northwestern Minnesota. But our sub-zero wind chills going all the way down into Kansas, northwest Missouri, Iowa, and even southern parts of Wisconsin. Now, as we go into the afternoon, here are where our temperatures go. We're still going to be hovering around zero in a lot of areas across the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, but we'll be warming up, so that's important. Looking at our wind chills here, we're going to remain around 5 to 15 degrees below zero with our wind chills up here across the northern plains and the upper Midwest. And our temperatures will be pretty chilly far south, down here towards North Texas, northern Louisiana, into Mississippi, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. We're going to be seeing highs in the 30s, 40s, and some colder 50s out there. And looking at the east, not too shabby over here. Pretty cold, though, in Maine. We're seeing temperatures starting off this morning below zero, wind chills below zero, but as we warm up through the afternoon, we're going to see those temperatures rise into the 20s across Maine and much of the Northeast and New England, getting toward 30 degrees. And then the Ohio Valley to the Mid-Atlantic, we're talking temperatures in the low to mid-30s. And then a warm up here across parts of the Gulf Coast into Florida as a warm frontal boundary pushes to the north towards Atlanta. I think it gets caught up there on North Georgia. South of the warm front, we're going to see temperatures in the 70s and then 80s down here in the Sunshine State of Florida. Going through the rest of this week, colder air will be tapped into by our big winter storms that are coming through as we go through midweek and then again in the weekend. And you can see the coldest of our air really going to remain up here in Montana into the Dakotas. So if you have any relatives that live up in this region or friends, it's cold, okay? So make sure they are bundling up in layers and covering any exposed skin because frostbite in some of these morning temperatures and wind chills can give frostbite in less than 15 minutes, some life-threatening wind chills. Now, you can see the blue and green going all the way down to Texas here, Arkansas, into Missouri and parts of western Tennessee. That's just below normal temperatures, colder than we expect for this time of year. Now let's look at our winter storm. This is winter storm number 1 as we go through midweek. We're starting to gather a low pressure down here into Colorado as we go through today, but especially tonight, we're going to start to see snow breaking out from eastern and central Colorado off the Front Range and into Kansas and parts of Nebraska. Some of that snow getting into Iowa and western Missouri as well. And then rainfall beginning to develop with a few thunderstorms from Texas and along the Gulf Coast states as we go into overnight. As we go into Wednesday, midday here, we got some heavier snow breaking out from around Topeka, Kansas City, up here through Davenport and into Rockford, Illinois. That's where we could have a heavier swath of snow beginning around midday tomorrow. In between, we got a little bit of ice here from Oklahoma City into Tulsa up through St. Louis and Indianapolis, watching out for a transition zone between the snow and rain to a freezing rain sleet setup. And then on the warm side, we're looking at some stronger thunderstorms with some hefty rainfall across the Gulf Coast notes as we go into Wednesday afternoon. As we go into Wednesday night, notice that snowfall continues to move east-northeastward through the Chicagoland into Milwaukee, Green Bay, Grand Rapids, up here toward Traverse City, and then over here into southeastern Canada, more so southern Ontario and southwestern Quebec. We do have a freezing rain and sleet setup. Detroit down here through Toledo, Fort Wayne near Indianapolis, maybe just a little north of Indianapolis there, and then over here into places like St. Louis and the Champaign-Urbana area in eastern Illinois as well. Rainfall getting all the way up to the Ohio River Valley, into the mid-Atlantic, all the way down across the southeast with the cold air damming here across New York State. And as we go through the day on Thursday, that brings a pretty hefty snowstorm to southeastern Canada with a transition zone again across Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire with more coastal rains for the northeast. So what are we looking at for snowfall? Here, looking more at exact totals, we're looking at around 3 to 6 inches of snow here for the Topeka, Kansas area up toward Kansas City. We're looking at more of a 5 to 8 inch snow for Des Moines, and we're looking at Rockford, Illinois of around 4 to 8 inches. Milwaukee down to Chicago, we're looking at around 4 to 8 inches of snow, and we swing this further east into Michigan. We're looking at Traverse City around 3 to 6 inches. Detroit, you're kind of on that rain snow line. We're looking at around 1 to 3 inches. If you can stay all snow for most of the event, you're looking at the higher end of that scale toward 3 inches. If you see more of a mixing or over to rain, we're going to see that lower to around an inch, maybe even less than that. And then very heavy snows for southern Ontario and Quebec, where we could see over a foot of snow there, possibly some areas getting locally up to 18 inches between now and your Friday morning on February 14th. As far as the transition zone goes for freezing rain and sleet, we could be seeing a thin glaze of ice upwards to a 0.2 of an inch of ice here, really from Amarillo up through Oklahoma City, Tulsa, St. Louis, Indianapolis, all the way to Fort Wayne, Toledo, Dayton, Ohio, all the way up here into Detroit, and then parts of the Northeast as well. So be watching out for some hazardous travel conditions with some ice-covered roads as we go through the weekend. And looking at the warm side, we are tracking the threat for severe weather. Storm Prediction Center's Day 1 outlook does have a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk for severe storms from south and coastal Texas over here as well into southern Mississippi, up into southwestern and central Alabama, mainly for some gusty 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-size hail. A couple tornadoes cannot be ruled out. You can see as we go through the day today, a lot of this is going to be just training over the same area, so the heavy rain threat may actually be realized more than the severe weather threat today. But notice if you do get under one of those severe storms, they will pack a punch with some heavy rainfall, and that takes us all the way up through our Wednesday morning commute. Now, a bigger severe weather setup looms as we go into tomorrow. This is the Day 2 outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. A level 2 out of 5 slight risk of severe weather. Scattered severe storms in the yellow shaded color down here into Baton Rouge, Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Montgomery, over here just south and west of Atlanta. That's where we're keeping tabs on the potential for 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, quarter-size hail or larger, and a few tornadoes cannot be ruled out here. There is a 5% chance of a tornado inside this yellow shaded color, and there's a 2% chance surrounding that in the green. So be watching out for that as we go into Wednesday. Walking you through that, we're going to have a lot of convective feedback Wednesday morning. So this could kind of temper the severe threat initially early in the day. This is going to be some pretty heavy rainfall, some rain-cooled air. But watch as we start to lead that out as we go into Wednesday afternoon. Now, there is a little bit of uncertainty how long this convection sticks around. Does it stick around longer through the Wednesday afternoon or evening time frame? That could squelch a little bit of the severe weather setup. If it clears out quicker and we have a little bit of recovery time, we could actually see some more severe weather, and that could ramp up potentially even to an enhanced risk. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go into Wednesday afternoon. But regardless, rainfall moving over the same area, flash flooding threat with heavy rain. And then we have a severe weather threat with all modes of severe weather here from Louisiana into Mississippi, Alabama, and northern and western Georgia as we go through your Wednesday evening and Wednesday night time frame. Looking just at that first winter storm as far as rainfall amounts are concerned, we're looking at anywhere from 2 to as much as 4 inches of rain from eastern and coastal Texas all the way up here through Dixie Alley into parts of the eastern Tennessee Valley into the mid-Atlantic here. That stretches all the way up into the Delmarva larvae. So flash flooding may be a concern and isolated to scattered instances across this region. Now, as we go into the weekend, we have another winter storm number 2 that we'll be tracking in here. Look at the low pressure developing in eastern Colorado. That's going to kick out across the plains as we go into Saturday morning down here toward Oklahoma, and then that will shift up toward the Ohio River Valley, Tennessee River Valley on Saturday evening and into Saturday night. North and west of that track, colder air coming in on the backside, wintry weather with heavier snow, ice, and some sleet out there, and then we are looking at more of a heavy rain, severe weather setup. This could be a more dynamic system for some severe weather. We'll get to that momentarily. Looking here at Friday, we got some snow in the Intermountain West. That low pressure will kick out across the plains, and that will give us some pretty decent snow. Similar areas as we're seeing with the first system here, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Chicago, over to Detroit and Grand Rapids. Seeing the potential of wintry weather, whether that's all snow, whether that is freezing rain and sleet, yet to be determined in those areas. But we do know there's going to be a pretty significant severe weather setup here for the weekend, and that could lead to potentially a tornado outbreak as we go into Saturday. But looking on the cold side, for now, we're looking at another swath of potentially several inches of snow stretching from Kansas City to Des Moines, over here in the Davenport Quad Cities, Rockford, Illinois, Chicago, Milwaukee, Grand Rapids, Fort Wayne, all the way over to Toledo, Detroit, and maybe even over into Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York, Watertown, Albany, New York, all the way over here into Concord, New Hampshire. You have a chance for several inches of snow with this system going through the weekend. You have the transition zone underneath the low track with some ice, and then we have a significant severe weather setup. Yesterday, the Storm Prediction Center introduced a day 6 outlook. Yes, 6 days out for higher confidence of a severe weather outbreak. Now on day 5, they've expanded that area to actually include more of middle and eastern Tennessee up toward the Cumberland Plateau. So that does include the Nashville region, Chattanooga, as well as near Atlanta. So we are keeping an eye on a widespread area of severe weather outbreak potentially, with all modes of severe weather, straight line winds, very large hail, and potentially even some stronger tornadoes. And those tornadoes could be nocturnal going into Saturday night. Let's walk through the setup here. Storm energy, not going to be the biggest we've ever seen, right? It's not the middle of May. We're not going to see 4,000 joules per kilogram of energy, but we do have 1,000, maybe 2,000 joules per kilogram. That's weak to moderate instability. That's all you need here in the February setup because we have stronger wind shear this time of year. Notice as that kind of moves to the east, this is your 500 millibar mid-level jet, really starting to strengthen as this system matures across Dixie Alley. So from Louisiana, Mississippi into Alabama and Tennessee, we really need to watch this because that couples with a very strong low-level jet in the 850 millibar layer, and that's giving us our low-level wind shear for tornado genesis across this region. So we are looking at the potential for multiple severe thunderstorms that could pose the risk for tornadoes, yes, even nocturnal strong tornadoes here from Louisiana into Mississippi, up into Tennessee, Alabama, and even as far east as Georgia, and that will go through our Sunday morning time frame. Those storms will weaken as they push toward the Sunshine State of Florida. Now with that second winter storm, here's the rainfall, not as heavy, a little bit further to the north too. We're seeing more of a 1 to 3 inch variety, really right along the Ohio River here toward Kentucky and into southern Ohio, into southern Indiana. So that's where the heaviest rain will be with this system. Again, 1 to 3 inches, flash flooding will be possible. So between the two systems, the midweek system beginning literally within the next 24 hours, all the way through your Monday, February 17th, with both systems, we're looking at anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow here from Kansas, Nebraska, through much of the Midwest, including Chicago, Milwaukee, over here into Detroit, into places like Traverse City, Grand Rapids, Lansing, all the way up here into the Northeast. And then we have upwards of 1 to 2 feet of snow from parts of southern Ontario into southern Quebec here. That's with 2 winter storms. Now, looking at the 2 winter storms with ice potential, a light glaze upwards to an isolated 1/4 inch amounts across these areas from Texas Panhandle all the way to the Northeast. This includes mostly the Ohio Valley and the epicenter of the ice potential. And then the epicenter of heavy rain and flash flooding will be across southern Kentucky, Tennessee, especially middle and eastern Tennessee, into much of Mississippi, northern Alabama, into northern Georgia and the western Carolinas. That's where in those brown shaded colors could be seeing more than 6 inches of rain during those two systems, and that could lead to some widespread flash flooding as that kind of continues to saturate the soil, if you will. Going into the third week of February, Monday, February 17th through Saturday, February 22nd, we're going to see some some cold air. And notice the feedback here as we put down some heavy snow. Our deeper snowpack going to be feeding back some colder air across the Midwest, where you see these pinks, purples around Des Moines, Kansas City, Chicago, and up there toward Fort Wayne. Those are temperature anomalies 30, 35 degrees below normal. It's going to be a very cold week next week, and that will actually travel a little bit too. The colder air is going to travel to the Gulf Coast as we go into next week. And that could set up a winter storm track just a little bit further south. Here's the European model. You can see as we go through next week, we move the needle into Tuesday, Wednesday. Could bring some snow maybe further south. Kentucky, Tennessee, into the North Carolina and Virginia, and then maybe another winter storm right on its heels there for the Midwest. What about the GFS, the American model guidance? You can see very similar, but the snow track is just a little bit further north, back towards Chicago, Indianapolis, Dayton, maybe even up here towards portions of Akron, Ohio, as we go into later on next week. There's some differences in the models, as you guys would understand, being over a week or so out. We're going to continue to track these winter storms with heavy snow, ice, heavy rain, and significant severe weather. Follow along with all my detailed, accurate weather breakdowns. An evening update video is warranted today, so we're going to have that later on today to update you on the latest with these winter storms. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you're notified for any future videos and live streams on this channel. If you did find the video informative and you did enjoy it, make sure to give a thumbs up down below, like the video, and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. And I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe rest of their Tuesday out there.